I just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas.
I'm giving a dinner at the house. Just a few folks from the firm. I'd like you to be there. Ring up your wife and see if she'd care to join us. It could be arranged for one employee to receive a Christmas bonus this year, 2 candidates, one enviable new role. One of you will become expendable.
I was hoping there'd be games tonight.
You're up for this rather unorthodox job interview?
This is wrong on so many levels.
We have got our eye on you.
Ho, ho, ho!
Stop it! Stop it! Get away from him!
Wow!
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, 2 friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Tell you, Bronzy was Charles Bronson's stunt double.
You know what? At least you didn't watch The Punished, which wasn't even Bronzy.
Oh God, who was it then?
God, who was it? Yeah, that's a good question. That I just love the fact that that movie was a giant shill for an amusement park, because like that was the most hilarious part, was like the Punisher character ends up getting like a hold of this little girl to protect her, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna take her to this amusement park. So they get a tour guide, and they're just like touring all these rides.
Well, didn't we watch? We watched. There was like
Death Kiss, and The
like
Punished were done by
movie.
the same person. Yeah, and they were basically the same movie. Yeah.
No, I remember that because it ends with them putting the barbecue sauce on the guy.
Yeah. Robert Amsler is the guy that played The Punished, aka Wolfgang.
As in the name Wolfgang or a gang of wolves?
Rene Perez is the director, by the way.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, because I think even the facts say that it was a advertisement for the amusement park, if I'm not mistaken. Let's find it. I just remember watching it and being just like, why are we spending so much time like on these water rides?
So, what was your favorite part of all the mucus?
Of my sickness?
You were indeed down with the sickness.
I was indeed down with the sickness. My favorite part was finally getting to sleep after my fever broke, but then after the 6-hour sweat cycle of going through the fever break.
You don't sleep well in a fever?
I mean, I slept fine in a fever, apparently, because I had it, I'm guessing, for at least a day before it even showed itself.
Yeah, for me, fevers, I always know they're bad when I'm freezing, a feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I'll be like, oh, cool.
Well, the worst part by far was the body aches. The body aches were several days. And not only then did I have the aches themselves, but then the chills followed shortly after that. And that was the first time I'd gotten chills in a while. And that sucked.
You just watched Terminator 2 more.
No, I watched
Hasta la vista, baby.
I watched
chills.
Columbo and Bob's Burgers, baby. That was basically my rotation for like 24 to 48 hours straight.
I was super sick in November.
Yeah.
For a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just held.
Mm-hmm.
And
because that was when you missed Breakfast Club, right?
I missed breakfast. Well, that might have been no, that was in November.
Yeah.
But I was super sick and I stopped being sick, but I was still congested.
Yeah.
And I thought that the problem was all of the podcasting, that my voice was unable to heal because constantly, and I'm sure that didn't help.
Yeah.
But I remember it was like December 20th when I was out in Philly visiting friends. I was still coughing up stuff or trying to. And I was finally like, I went to sleep in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, PA on my way out there. And I literally was like, I laid my head down on the pillow and I was like, if I wake up tomorrow and I am this frustrated with my sinuses, I'm going to an urgent care or something.
Yeah.
And asking if like I have a sinus infection because it just would not let up. And it did start letting up in part because I didn't podcast for 6 days in a row.
And that would do it. Yeah.
From October to December, it's very impressive for me not to podcast for 5 days straight.
Yeah, no, I would say so. Yeah, the worst part was the body aches and the chills. The sweating was so annoying because it would just got to a point where I had laid down, slept for like maybe 20 minutes, woke up and my clothes were drenched, the covers were drenched. So then I had to get a towel, wipe up the sweat as much as I could, change clothes again, and then try and lay back down. I had to go through like 6 different sleeping combinations to try and like get to a point where then it was just finally, okay, I'm just going to lay here half cold, and that's the best I could get, because anything blanket wise or shirt wise, I was sweating so much that it just did not work for me.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't be bundled up when you have a fever anyway.
No.
That's I had a friend years ago who she would always get insanely chilly when she had a fever. And that was the big problem, was like growing up, her parents would be like, stop it, because she'd bundle up.
To sweat it out, yeah.
Well, no, just to feel warm.
Oh, yeah.
Because she was feeling so cold. They'd be like, stop it right now. You're just making it worse.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's scientific.
I've always heard you can sweat a fever out, but I've never personally tried it.
Well, a fever. So I've been told that you should not take fever suppressants unless you need to. Like you're extremely uncomfortable, because the fever is helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's helping kill the infection.
Yeah.
So that's my move. But that's why the show's late.
Well, the show's late for 2 reasons, actually. And that is because that I decided to take a contra lane entering Michigan this past Saturday. And in doing so, got stuck in a single lane for
Michigan?
Michigan.
You said Michigan.
No. In Dayton, I saw it.
No, you just, I swear.
I said Dayton. I don't think I said Michigan. If I said Michigan, it's on recording. But
I know. Maybe I'm going insane, but I thought I heard you say Michigan.
No, when I was trying to enter
Michigan.
If I said Michigan, then I don't know what. But no, yeah, Dayton. And then, there was a really bad accident. They shut down the lane, and I was stuck 7 cars behind the accident for about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Which, sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I read my Fred Olin Ray book a little bit more, which I'm only like 90 pages away from finishing right now.
I felt so bad for you when you're sitting in that traffic.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. But what was interesting was being inside the jam and like seeing people get out of their cars and walk past your car and go see the accident. Like, it was just, you remember that episode of Malcolm in the Middle where they get caught in that giant cliff collapse and they're just stuck on that highway for like 7 hours? That's what it was like.
Well, did I ever tell you about the time I got stuck in North Carolina for 2.5 hours? Sitting still.
Yeah.
We were on a 2-lane highway way out in North Carolina. Not like a freeway. A highway, like a little state route. And a truck had flipped wide enough that it blocked all lanes of traffic. And the only way to move it was to get several wreckers. So we sat there for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I was watching stuff on my iPad because I gave up. I was seeing people getting out of their car to go pee, and like I saw some people getting lawn chairs out and just sitting around.
Yeah.
And that was when I made a bunch of friends, because there was a big bike club of some sort. And I gave them all cigars from my travel.
That would do
humidor. Well, I was on my way to Georgia, where there aren't a lot of places to smoke anyway. So I was like, I got like 8 cigars in here. So there were like 5 of them or something. So I just went, you guys smoke stogies? And they were like, yeah. And then I was like, and they were just like, shit.
But yeah, if I had to wrap up the best part of my flu, it was watching Columbo, because I'm like, I think halfway through the entire series now. And you want to know something funny? Our buddy Robert Culp, who's the detective in Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, has appeared on the show 3 times now as a killer.
He played a killer 3 different times?
3 different times.
Different killers?
Yeah. The first time he murdered, he's a private dick that accidentally murders a woman, so then he tries to hide her body and then like make it cover ups another way. Second time, he killed Dean Stockwell with a huge chunk of ice as he was in a swimming pool. He comes up and he hits him with the ice and then throws the ice in because it just melts. Perfect crime.
And heard it here first, kids.
And then the third time, which was the one I watched last night, he just straight up, he's giving a speech like at this symposium, and he records his voice on tape. And while the recording's going, he steps away, shoots this prime ambassador, and then comes back and finishes.
So he has an alibi.
Yup.
Okay.
Dude, it's been good. I've been loving Donald Pleasance murdered his brother.
Was that a non sequitur or was that in the show?
That was in the show.
One more thing.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing. But so beyond that,
Yes.
you and I finally got a much postponed trip to the theater
Yes.
to watch Novocaine
Yes, we did.
because we missed out on it
Mm-hmm.
when it first came out.
Yeah. I think
And
we're, 2-3 weeks late now?
I think we're only a week after it released.
Okay.
Or so. Yeah, because the week after Novocaine was Snow White. So yeah, like it came out 2 weeks ago.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we usually catch things like the Tuesday after opening. So we're only a little bit out from it.
Yeah.
But I hope that this movie's word of mouth gets it to grow a little bit more.
I think so.
Because well, I mean, it has a little bit.
Yeah.
But right now it's like heading toward breaking evenville.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see it like be a hit, or at least a modest hit, or a surprise hit.
It's fun.
I mean, we have had those moments.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the last couple of years, where a movie comes out, it has okay, return.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of explodes eventually.
I mean, I don't know if explodes would be the right word, but like Hard Eyes, we kind of saw that with a little bit.
No, that's a pretty good example. Even bigger example, oddly enough, would be a Valentine's example, would be that that Sydney Sweeney rom-com that I saw. Anyone But Him, or Anyone But You?
Anyone But You.
Anyone But You.
Yeah.
Which was really fun. I saw that at the theater in Mackinac City in the middle of the winter, where like basically one restaurant and the theater is open. I love it up there in the winter, but yeah, that's all that's open. And it's not just a single theater. They have 6 screens.
Yeah.
So you can watch whatever you want. That's how I saw Megan for the first time. I saw that up there. But Anyone But You came out and just kind of, and then it just kept growing and then growing.
It was like, I think, was it a month apart from No Hard Feelings, which is the Jennifer Lawrence one? Because I feel like those two kind of came out close together.
It could be. Which that one turned out to be really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. It's in my Netflix queue.
You haven't watched No Hard Feelings?
No, not yet.
Ironically enough, watched it in my cabin outside of Mackinac City.
Look at you.
It's so weird that you know what? Now I'm wondering if it was a year apart from Anyone But You, because
it's possible.
I might have watched it on the same trip.
That's very possible. Yeah,
I might have gotten in the mood for rom-coms for what? Now I'm curious. Anyone But You, because that was 2023.
Yeah, because The Ends of You is the one with Blake Lively.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, budget 25 million, box office 220 million.
Damn.
It came back months later.
Yeah.
Or weeks later. It started zooming back up.
Hell yeah.
So it does happen. And did you see Anyone But You?
No.
Because that's also on Netflix.
I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen No Hard Feelings. Those two are definitely on my queue, though.
It worked really well. So anyway, what we're talking about... Novocaine. Yeah, No Hard Feelings actually did come out the same year, by the way.
Yeah.
But it came out in June.
Okay.
So it was actually later that year.
Yeah, Novocaine, the new one starring Jack Quaid, directed by Dan Burke and Robert Olson, written by Lars Jacobson. They are the team that gave you Villains, Body, and then they were also the writing. Lars is the writer of Days of the Dead Bloodline.
Well,
Bloodlines.
Let's not hold that against him.
I don't remember Bloodlines being that bad. I just remember it doing a lot of tropes.
Day of the Dead Bloodlines?
I remember it doing a lot of tropes. I don't remember it being like unwatchable. I remember we had a decent time with it.
You're not thinking of the one with Ving Rhames, are you?
No. Okay. That's Contagion. Or not Contagion. Day of the Dead live action, or not live action, but the remake or whatever. Bloodlines is the one with the medical facility.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't like abysmal.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
It had some fun things.
But I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I thought one thing that I really appreciated about it, and granted, a lot of this is probably budgetary, but one of the things I really appreciated about the film was that it was somewhat constrained.
Yeah.
It wasn't nonstop car chases, nonstop gunfights, nonstop all that stuff. He goes from place to place. He has, he's trying to save this girl he's recently fallen in love with. The whole concept of him having no ability to feel pain is a great element, because it shows why he cares so much about this person that he just recently got involved with, because he's lived an insanely sheltered life forever, basically.
Yeah.
So it really is hard for him to meet people, to have a romantic interest.
Well, that was the thing I loved, was the overall romantic interest and the relationship building compared to like Love Hurts, which we, saw a few weeks back and whatnot. It was just like,
that was a romance?
It was a romantic comedy, wasn't it? Because I mean, you had...
I was being mean.
Yeah.
because it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But this one actually filled out the story and made us care about the characters and gave us something to care about for that matter too.
Yeah. No, I really thought it was fun. I thought that the way they did the whole quote unquote superpowers of his was very good.
Oh yeah.
The trailer made it seem like he was a vigilante,
Mm-hmm.
when in reality, which would have been sillier, when in reality he was a vigilante for one reason.
For one cause.
Yeah, he was trying to save the girl.
Yeah.
So, and the great twist with that too.
Yeah, it's a very
really
good
well.
twist. Yeah.
So overall, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was silly and fun.
Brutal, violent, gory.
The weirdest part was, like he gets a compound fracture and he doesn't react.
Yeah.
But everyone in the theater was just like, there's one guy, did you hear he was stomping his feet? Like when it got really gross. That was perfect.
When they started pulling out the nails. Like, it was funny because like I felt the same way with this character because I was just like, oh, I mean, he doesn't feel it. So like, it's not really getting me, but like the visuals still got me a little bit.
No.
Still pretty nasty.
If you were just sitting there like, can I get another one of those licorice ropes from you? While he's getting his fingernails pulled out, I'd be like, what the Facebook comments or the YouTube comments say about you is true.
Yeah, apparently.
What Bandrew Scott says about your sociopathy is true.
Yeah, you sent me that clip. I saw.
That was funny.
It was pretty funny.
So anyway, I really like Novocaine.
Yeah. No, Novocaine's
I know you
solid.
had a good kick out of it.
Yeah.
And we're really excited because next time we get to go see Working Man.
Yes, we will have a full review of Working Man on next week's show.
The Jason Statham action.
Man universe.
First, he was a beekeeper.
Then he's a working man. Next, bodega man.
Next, he's a part-time accountant.
But not that one.
But not Ben Affleck's. Has to be an accountant with an asterisk.
Yeah,
This is not that one.
Not that one.
So anyway, with all that being said, the
Yes.
other thing that was a real bummer though about Novocaine was that would have been such a fun movie at Christmas time.
It had a lot of Christmassy stuff too. I mean, like it wasn't like
that
full up
Christmassy, but it was totally Christmassy. I
Yeah,
agree.
it definitely played onto it. That's one of my favorite jokes at the end. It's a Christmas miracle. No, it's a January 11th.
He's like, oh, it's Christmas? He's like, no, it's January 11th. You were in a medically induced coma. Well, because why wouldn't he be?
Oh,
And that
yeah.
was the other thing is they really kept it relatively, I mean, within the bounds of it being ridiculous.
Yeah.
They kept it pretty realistic.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't Superman.
No.
I do, wish it had more in common with Darkman.
Don't we all?
I wish he had told, the
Take the fucking elephant.
But otherwise, no, it's good stuff.
Novocaine's definitely worth your time. It's a good, fun one. I think, what is it? You said an hour 50. Yeah, hour 50. So you're under 2 hours at least.
Could have been a little shorter, but
It
overall,
definitely
but I
could've.
really did like it.
You know what it reminded me of in regards to being a better movie, both for the Christmas element and the action element?
What's that?
Silent Night.
I wasn't going to bring up that.
It reminded me a little bit of it, and I was just like, wow, this is so much. Well, this is so much more done better.
That was
I couldn't get the words
astute.
out. Yes.
Very astute.
It was
that would
done
be.
way better.
Astute.
Yeah, shut up.
But speaking of Christmas,
Oh, yes. Yes.
we're wrapping up our month of Into the Dark.
Yes. It has been March into the Dark month as we've covered Hulu's Into the Dark series from Blumhouse. The short-lived, 2 seasons we got?
Well, short-lived 2 years.
yeah, 2 years.
Mhm.
And we are going out with a banger.
Yeah, this one we had a great time with when it first came out.
Oh, yeah.
And briefly, just for those who may somehow not know, Into the Dark was a TV series of sorts that introduced a brand new Blumhouse movie every month, and often they were related to the month.
Yeah.
So this one was a Christmas time one, and we've talked about 3 other ones.
Yes, we have.
And had a really great time kind of leaning into that.
Mm-hmm.
So
All leading up to this.
yes. And I just want to remind everybody, I mean, they're all streaming for free on Hulu. Well, with your prescription.
Subscription.
Yeah. Doc, I just need to be spooked. Well, here's your Hulu
Here's your
prescription.
Hulu prescription.
But no, it's that series is so worth your time.
Yeah.
The ones we talk about are our favorites, but there's so many different things for you to enjoy
Yeah.
when it comes to Into the Dark. And it's one of those things I wish more people were talking about Into the Dark because it's really, really good.
It holds up. I mean, I've had a great time going back to them. They've held up immensely, and it's made me want to go back and look at some of the lesser favorited ones to see if they've aged a little bit better in the last couple of years or whatnot.
So, but this one also happens to star a goat.
Yes. True goat.
And not the animal this time.
No, not this time.
But Julian Sands.
R.I.P.
Of the Warlock films fame.
Yes.
And many other roles.
Things.
But that was the film that really made horror fans
take note.
Yeah, because he was incredible.
Well, and I mean, those movies, I'm kind of bummed because I came to the Warlock films late. Because to be perfectly honest, I'd seen at least the first one before we got that from the set from Vestron. Mm-hmm. But revisiting Warlock 1 and 2, they're so much fun. They're so insanely violent. They're so insanely goofy. And they're entertaining. I mean, the second one's basically Infinity War.
Yeah, no. The second one was constantly on Cinemax when I was a kid.
I could definitely see that.
So I saw Warlock 2 before I saw anything.
Yeah.
That one was always on rotation.
Yeah, because it was originally based off a novel, which I've been trying to get my hands on, but the Warlock novel is a little pricey nowadays. But if you have not seen the Warlock movies, I'm sure they'll probably come to the show at some point, but they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, in Warlock 1, it really is like a time capsule of 80s and 90s horror when they were trying something different.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed.
So we are talking about Into the Dark, a nasty piece of work from 2019.
Yes.
1 hour and 18 minutes, rated TVMA for sexual content, graphic violence, and strong language. I'm pretty sure that's what all of them have been rated for.
A couple of them had nudity.
Yeah, that's fair. IMDb synopsis for this one says, the boss of a private equity company invites a couple of his employees over to a Christmas party that turns out to be an intense competition for a promotion.
Well, I mean, that sums it up decently.
My synopsis, a dinner invitation from their boss is secretly an intense competition for two employees competing for a promotion.
That's a wash. You guys both.
Not much you can do.
You both did good.
Do you have a tagline for this one? Because it does not have one.
Oh, one will get a promotion. The other will be severed.
Not bad. Not bad.
That's off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's better than mine. Mine was a promotion to kill for.
Let's move on.
All right, fair enough. Director on a nasty piece of work is Charles Hood. He gets his start as writer and director on Freezer Burn in 2007. He also directs a nasty piece of work in 2019, Play-by-Play in 2019, and In the Vault in 2022. Hasn't really done much else.
Well, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
And 2022 wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't, no. Writer on the project is Paul Soter, who gets his start in 94 on Tinfoil Monkey Agenda, then goes on to write Puddle Cruiser, Super Troopers, Club Dread, Beer Fest, Watching the Detectives, The Slam and Salmon, Dark Circles, Super Troopers 2, A Nasty Piece of Work, Tacoma PD, and most recently Quasi in 2023. Paul Soter of Broken Lizard Comedy Troupe.
Really?
Yeah.
That I was not expecting.
Yeah, he's the one that plays Foster in Super Troopers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Cinematographer on the film is James Neist. He gets his start shooting 1996's Walkabout. Then in 2014, shoots Annabelle. Followed by Hush in 2018. Followed by Within. Then shoots The Bye-Bye Man in 2017. Joy Division's Inner Zone Video in 2019. Uncanny Annie. A nasty piece of work, Crawlers, The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Free Fall, American Horror Stories, and most recently in 2022, Shot the Midnight Club.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so he did two of the big Mike Flanagan series.
Yeah.
Haunting of Bly Manor, which is probably my least favorite.
Still
that's
have not seen it. I know.
It's been years.
I know.
Have you seen all the other ones?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen Midnight Club. I've seen Midnight Club. I've seen Haunting of Hill House. Is it Hill? Yeah. Not Hill House?
The Haunting of Hill House.
It is Haunting Hill House.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Bly Manor was
Bly
after
Manor
Haunting
was
of
the
Hill
second
House.
one, yeah.
And you've watched Midnight Mass?
Midnight Mass, and I've seen the most recent one about the club.
The Midnight Club.
No. The acid rain down on the people at the party.
Mask of the Red Death.
Yes. Saw that. Yeah. So Bly Manor's the only one I haven't seen.
Wow. Well, it's pretty good. It's like I said, it's my least favorite, but that's not saying that much because I really think it's good.
No, I mean, they've all been fantastic, so I need to get on it. Cast includes Kyle Howard, who plays Ted in this. He gets his start in 1996's Trigger Happy. The same year, he also shoots House Arrest. He's the main kid in House Arrest, is the main actor in this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then he goes on to do Gunther and the Paper Brigade in 96, Robo Warriors, Chicago Hope, Skeletons, appears on Home Improvement, Pacific Blue, Baby Geniuses in 1999.
Hey.
Love Boat The Next Wave, Friends, Orange County, Boston Public, What I Like About You, King of the Hill, The Drew Carey Show, Nip Tuck, CSI, Holiday in Handcuffs, the ABC original film in 2007.
Aww.
Extreme Movie, Ghost Whisperer, Love Bites, Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, Minority Report TV series, Royal Pains, Electric Love, shoots a nasty piece of work in 2019, also stars in Val in 2021, and most recently, Me in 2024.
Well, before we move on.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a movie that I would almost guarantee you haven't seen, and most of our audience has not, which is 1997's Skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie has a very interesting, don't look. Has a very interesting thing to it. Because here's the description.
Yeah.
A Pulitzer Prize journalist has a heart attack and moves with his wife and son from New York City to a town of 850 in Maine. Things are fine until he investigates a man arrested for murdering his boyfriend. Vandalism and worse follows. So it's this mystery where it appears that there's a cabal against this gay couple in this town.
Yeah.
So that sounds, like kind of a tense little 90s thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Director, David Dakota. Possibly one of the most, I'm trying to think of the word, most upscale.
Yeah.
Story-wise.
Yeah.
Dave Dakota films.
Yeah.
He did an incredible job with it. And it's one that's just super unexpected. So when I heard the title, I had to mention it because it is totally worth your time. It's hard to find it,
of course,
nearly anywhere. Apparently, it was originally supposed to be Ken Russell.
Jesus,
that's what IMDb claims. But he was fired, and Dave Dakota was hired to replace him. I had heard a story somewhere that Dakota was hired last minute to take over the film.
I better check that out. I'm going to search that out.
It was one of the 8 films that were executive produced by Jordan Belfort. The
Okay.
Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Yeah. I remember hearing about him getting in the movie shortly.
Yeah, Dakota has a whole story about like hanging out with him and stuff and how interesting it was.
To check that out.
So anyway, but I just want to mention it because that is one of the most fascinating films in Dakota's very vast filmography. If you don't know who Dave Dakota is, I mean, he's one of the great indie machines. With Fred Olen Ray, Jim Wynorski, Roger Corman, Dave Dakota. And Dave has, as of the recording of this show, 184 listed credits as a director.
One of his most famous is probably Final Stab, which was that Scream knockoff, right?
Or Puppet Master 3.
Yeah.
And he's been doing mostly, like a lot of those guys, he's been doing mostly Lifetime movies.
Yeah.
So, but oddly enough, not a lot of the Christmas ones. He does a few. But recently he did Tall, Dark, and Dangerous, $1 Million Lethal Listing, Fatal Fixer Upper, A Nanny to Die For.
I've seen $1 Million Listing. That one's actually on my DVR right now.
So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I think Dakota doesn't get enough credit for how well that movie turned out.
Oh, hell yeah. Moving out our cast, we have Molly Hagan, who plays Kiwi in the film. 154 credits on her resume, by the way.
I believe that, yeah.
Gets her started in 1985 with First Steps, then goes on to be in the Chuck Norris action vehicle Code of Silence in 85, which is a really, really good woman. Henry Silva plays the villain in it.
No way.
And there's a giant robot that Chuck Norris controls at the end that has machine guns and shit. Dude, it's nuts.
Whoa. Okay, I want to check that out.
That's the one that's done by Andrew Stevens of Under Siege and The Fugitive fame.
Yeah, Andrew Stevens.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of movies with Fred Ray.
Yes, he did. Knots Landing in 85, Dallas, the early years in 86, Some Kind of Wonderful, Alf, Columbo in 89.
There you go.
The Golden Girls, Seinfeld, Duckspin, Star Trek DS9, Murder, She Wrote, Dream On, The Larry Sanders Show, The Dentist in 96.
Open up and say, ah!
Sometimes They Come Back Again in 96.
I do love me Sometimes They Come Back Again.
Ringmaster in 98, Early Edition, Election, Airbud World Pup, Becker, Charmed, Friends, 6 Feet Under, NYPD Blue, Monk, ER, The Closer, Private Practice, Fear Itself. Bones, Night at the Museum, Battle for the Smithsonian, Red State, Desperate Housewives, The Mentalist, Masters of Sex, Ask Me Anything, Not Safe for Work, Longmire, Solly, Big Little Lies, Feud, Better Call Saul, Legion, The Orville, iZombie, A Nasty Piece of Work, Narcos Mexico in 2020, and most recently it was on Walker, the Walker Texas Rangers spinoff in 2024.
Well, I believe it because she is one of the few female. I know that person.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's got that face.
We have a ton of male character actors that are kind of that guy that was in that thing, which is a documentary they made about those character actors. But that she's a good example of like she's kind of like the mom in everything, or she's like the coworker at the office and
client,
everything.
Yeah. So wrapping us up is our man Julian Sands, who plays Steven in the film. 163 credits on his resume.
Okay. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gets his start in 1970 on Play for Today, then does A Married Man in 83, The Killing Fields, The Doctor and His Devils, which is one of the first Burke and Hare films that I cannot recommend enough. It's like it's him, Timothy Dalton, and I can't remember who else is the other actor. It's really good. Then he goes on to do Gothic, speaking of Ken Russell, in 86, Vibes in 88, Murder by Moonlight, Warlock in 89, Arachnophobia, Husbands and Lovers, Naked Lunch, Boxing Helena in 93.
He's great in Arachnophobia.
He's great in Boxing Helena, which Boxing Helena I wish would get a release. I used to have the DVD, but I stupidly got rid of it. I know. Warlock, Armageddon, Leaving Las Vegas, Chicago Hope, One Night Stand, Phantom of the Opera, Dario Argento's Phantom of the Opera in 1998.
That's different.
$1 Million Motel, Rose Red, Jackie Chan Adventures, The Medallion, The L Word, Stargate SG-1, 24, The Haunted Airman, Ocean's 13, Blood and Bones, Smallville, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo remake, Extraordinary Tales, Dexter, Banshee, Gotham, Crooked House, The Blacklist, A Nasty Piece of Work in 2019, The Survivalist, The Piper, The Last Breath, Assisting Venus, and that was his last credit in 2024. He did pass in January 13th of 2023 at age 65. It was tragedy during a hike in Mount Baldy, California in the San Bernardino Mountains. He went missing. They couldn't find him. And then shortly after that, they found his remains after a storm had moved through.
So it was misadventure or like exposure?
I believe he just he just got lost from what I understand.
Well, yeah. I mean, like he didn't have a heart attack or something. He just died from exposure.
Yeah, they didn't say anything. They basically said the body was recovered. I don't know if they actually ever did an autopsy. It was listed. His death was listed as undetermined due to the condition of his body. Yeah.
So that's unfortunate.
No, it really is. I mean, if you have not seen anything with Julian Sands, let alone the Warlock series, Boxing Elena, or even his appearance on Dexter is great too.
Oh yeah, really good.
Yeah. So yeah, Julian Sands, R.I.P. We miss you, but thank you for leaving behind an incredible body of work.
For real. Jeez.
So first time watching a nasty piece of work. We were immediately on board with this one, I think, for Julian Sands, if I remember correctly.
Oh, we were stoked that Julian Sands was in it.
Yeah.
There had been several podcasts that had Julian Sands as a guest to promote
had him. Yes, you're right. You're totally right.
And that got it on my radar extra.
Yeah.
Because we were already watching the series.
Yeah.
And the idea of a Christmas story and it being about
a work competition, but like a private work competition,
and a bit of a gallows humor, kind of thing,
very much,
as opposed to about a gift or a killer toy or something. It was cool to get something a little bit more, for lack of a better term, mature.
Well, because the teaser was basically him just being like, I'm having a dinner party, you guys should come, and then it was just like we're seeing the two of them with rifles, the one guy chasing him. So I mean, it was just like this is going to be insane.
Oh yeah, no, it's really really fun,
and it became another big favorite of ours from how many twists and turns there were throughout it. It was one of those where it was just like this is why we watch this show every month.
Yeah.
So you ready to get into it?
Why the hell not?
So we open with a title card that reads Falcon Heart Ventures Rules for Success, with number 1 being Show Initiative.
Initiative?
Initiative.
Okay.
So we cut to a parking garage. We're seeing a car just come speeding down. Actually comes down the wrong way ramp at first and then speeds into a parking spot. Guy gets out. He's carrying golf clubs. He's talking to somebody on the phone, and that's our main character, Ted. And he's talking to his wife. And basically is like, Steven said that he wanted to get a couple rounds in. And she's like, did you really just run home and get his golf clubs? So he gets up to Steven's office, and Steven is with Ted's rival, Devin, who they're also kind of in the same position at work and everything. And Steven's immediately like, oh, did you run home and get my golf clubs? well, you're an idiot. Those are $75,000 clubs. Like, what are you thinking?
Right clubs for this weather.
Yeah, he's like, you'll scratch my 9-iron, blah, 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 blah. So he's like, Devin, would you mind going and grabbing my clubs? I'd send Ted, but I'm afraid he'd come back with such and such and such. Like, just it completely emasculates.
Emasculates?
Is it
emasculate?
Emasculates. Thank
you.
Yes.
Emasticate would be some kind of chewing.
That's not what I mean.
I didn't think so.
So Ted responds in the most appropriate way by going into Steven's private bathroom and just going fucking ham with those golf clubs, smashing the mirror.
Yeah.
And that's our opening credits, which I forgot about and I love.
Oh, yeah. Nasty piece of work. I mean, and boy, if it is.
Yeah. So he just goes in, smashes this mirror up. We see that lesson 2 is don't hold anything back as he goes and freaks out on the mirror. So that's what we see as we go into the credits.
Yeah. And these little lessons for success popping up is a nice touch.
It is, yeah. It's a nice touch. Like when I first was rewatching it, I was just like, is there like an instructional video that I forgot about? But no, it's just basically we're just following the lessons that way.
Yeah.
So that is when we cut back and we see that it's Christmas time at the office. Ted, who is at the company Christmas party, is just sitting around looking at the bigwigs talking, including Steven in his office. And he's like, I just wish they would tell us. They want to know if they're getting their bonuses.
Yeah, they're waiting till the last second to tell them if they're getting Christmas bonuses.
And unfortunately, Steven does address the crowd and tells them that, due to, effective suspending of bonuses, we're all going to have to bite the bullet and the shared experience on this one. The bigwigs aren't getting theirs, so neither of you will either.
Well, the way he puts it is a little extra dickish.
Yeah.
Because what he says is there's been a light shined on, as the company struggles, the bonuses that the CEOs and the higher ups are getting.
Yeah.
So we're not taking any this holiday season but I wouldn't ask you to do I wouldn't ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. There'll be no Christmas bonuses whatsoever for the good of the company.
Well, and I think he also mentions that like some other smaller companies have folded, so we don't want to go in their footsteps because Brave Solutions, steadfast commitment, which is the Falconhurst way.
Of course.
So that's when he calls his wife Tatum, and she's like, don't take it so hard. And that's when he notices that Steven's just out on the balcony by himself.
Yeah.
Smoking a cigar, actually.
Well,
or a cigarillo, I think.
I think it was a cigarillo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we get the idea that Ted's like going to walk out there and push him. Like, and they show it. Like, he's approaching him. Nobody's around Steven. Steven's just out there. And then right as he gets up to him, he's like, oh, Ted, I wanted to talk to you.
Well, and it's smart because it plays with our expectations.
Yeah.
Because we're watching into the dark.
Yeah.
We know we're watching a horror movie.
Exactly.
So we're waiting for that shoe to drop.
So he is invited over to dinner with his wife. They're going to have just a little gathering, and he wants him to come and actually discuss because there may be talk of a new position. Because since, they're having to cut down on everything, they may be getting rid of some people, but that means a new position might open up.
Oh.
So that's when he calls his wife Tatum, and he's like, put something nice on the ride over. She's trying to calm him down, and she's like, don't worry about it. And he makes the comment, which we've got to bring this up because this is just our inside joke for this entire fucking episode.
Oh yeah.
So he makes a comment about his wife's earrings, and he's just like, are those the best ones you could have done? You're like, they just feel like they say that you're from Des Moines.
They scream, "I'm from Des Moines."
Yeah, and we riffed on this when we were watching it the first time, just like that. They were gonna smash cut to Steven being like, "I'm from Des Moines."
No, because later on she asks.
Yeah.
Or he asks, like, where are you from? And she's Des Moines. And yeah, that was her. Oh, I'm from Des Moines.
From Des Moines.
With his humongous British accent.
Yes.
Anytime we talk about Into the Dark, one of us usually goes,
I'm from Des Moines. That's just our inside joke.
Yeah.
So welcome to our bullshit.
Really.
So that is when they arrive at Steven's place, and he's a little uneasy, even more so as Devin pulls up with his wife Missy, who he didn't know was coming to the event.
No, because he thought this was a one-on-one with the boss to kind of figure out what's going on and if he's going to get this promotion he's been hoping for. But now it appears the pot is being stirred.
A little stirred indeed. So they pull up to a giant freaking house. The property is huge and the house itself is huge. And that's when we see Steven come out and greet them. And we also meet Kiwi, Steven's wife, who really does not hold back anything when it comes to just giving him shit.
Yes.
So she's like, are you entertaining them out there? Invite them in for drinks. Immediately, they kind of start going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not like that.
No, not like
fighting.
that. They're fighting. So Steven hands out 44-year-old cognac and says, it's probably the first and only time you're ever going to get to drink this. And he gives them one to everybody. And that's when they also notice, as Ted is walking in, he sees that there were people upstairs. So he thinks he saw two people looking out at him. And he's like, are there people upstairs? He's like, oh, no one's here. And that's when Ted also takes interest in Steven's arsenal of weapons on the wall.
Yes, they're all antique and they look like they are functional.
Yes, they are giant rifles, and he's just looking over them. And at this point, too, Kiwi kind of starts making friendly with Gavin on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's quite the friendly sort.
Has some very freeing hands.
Yeah, very handsy.
Yeah.
Very right in her husband's face.
Right in her husband's face.
Oh, yeah.
So eventually they all sit down to dinner, and Kiwi shows off a collection of masks on the wall. These white, ornate masks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what you would call them.
I would call them white ornate masks.
Yeah.
They look old.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shutish. Like they've got that appeal to them.
I could see that.
Yeah. So Steven also comments that Kiwi's had some plastic surgery, and that's when she takes a mask and shatters it against the wall.
Their marriage seems great.
It seems great.
Yeah, it seems like
dinner continues. There's a lot of snark between the group, especially with Kiwi and the wives, because you've got Tatum is it a nurse specialist, or I can't remember what she says specifically.
I think she's a nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like Kiwi has something to say about that, and then Missy is a community college student, and of course she has something to say about that. So that's when there's just some snark continuing between them. Ted is nervous about the whole thing, but Tatum talks him down again, reminding him that he can do it. And that's when Kiwi goes to show Missy the bathroom. And Kiwi tells her that, oh, yeah. She's like, this is such a nice house. She's like, oh, thanks. Yeah, we got a great deal on it because of the murders. And apparently there was a madman that hid in the wall some years ago, killed some people, and they couldn't sell the house, so they got a great deal on it. And then she's like, and there's the bathroom.
Anyway, go do your business.
And that's when we see step 3, be prepared for everything. So Kiwi requests a drink from Tatum as she sits next to Ted, and that's when, again, she's getting a little handsy on him, even grabs his crotch at one point.
Yeah, she's not being subtle.
Yeah, and
she's going for the gusto.
She's like, we got our eye on you, and Steven goes to badger Gavin a bit about his relationship with Missy. So he's like, what's some problems? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. And then he basically says, I feel like that she wants to be right all the time. I'm the guy that's like pulling the hard job, and she's the community college student with 2 years under her belt, blah, 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 blah. And Steven's just like, oh, yes, fascinating.
Yes, quite.
I wonder if we'll come back to that.
I doubt it.
I doubt it. So that's when he opens up. He believes that he knows more than she does. Steven's delighted to hear this. And Kiwi still tries to persuade Ted a bit more, even bringing up a bathroom incident in regards to the fact of him going off with the clubs. She wants to see his rage or his emotion side come out, basically.
There's a lot of manipulation going on.
Yeah.
Early on.
So she tries to make a move. This angers Steven, and he's like, I will not have this. He goes and grabs a gun off the wall, but more so gets Gavin to stand out of the way first. Which is my favorite. Or excuse me, Gavin. And he teases Gavin with a $100,000 bonus and 2 weeks in Aruba, so Gavin just moves out of his way. Steven grabs a gun. He's like, I will not be made a fool of in my own house. Opens fire and blows Kiwi's head off.
I mean, basically.
Yeah. Just shoots her dead.
Yeah, she falls to the ground. There's blood all over her fucking head.
And he goes, this is my house.
But then he immediately kind of turns to, what have I done?
And that's when we see step 4. Don't see the problem, see the solution.
Yep.
So Ted tries to talk to Steven into putting the rifle down, and he becomes hysterical looking at Kiwi's body on the floor, and that's when he's like, we can call the police. He's like, I can't have the police here. And then he basically goes with the initiation of the program, and he's just like, all right, Gavin, what's your idea? Ted, what's your idea? And Ted comes up with the idea that basically it was an accident, and that I can't remember if he was the one that said that he was cleaning his gun, but like, there's ideas that are good and there's ideas that are bad.
Well, because the other guy, the idiot,
Gavin,
he's just kind of like, we'll chop her body into pieces.
Yeah, I'll chop her body up and bury her in the backyard.
Yeah, no body, no crime.
So Gavin can't think of anything that works. Ted is asked upon by Steven, and he concocts an idea that he thought that she was an intruder. And before he knew what had happened, he'd accidentally shot her. And that's when Gavin offers to chop her up and bury her in the backyard. Yeah. Steven then tells him not to worry, that they'll all be taken care of. Because at this point, Tatum's like, we need to call the police. We need to get out of here. And Steven's like, no, don't worry. Like, whatever happens, you'll all be taken care of. Like, I just need your help on this. And that's when Gavin goes to check Kiwi's body, who grabs him, takes him in for a kiss, revealing that she's alive and this was all a ruse.
Yes. Apparently a very elaborate ruse.
Very elaborate.
Because they would have to have hidden some kind of a explosive or compressed air charge in her hair.
Because we see her head go bang and we see the blood come out. The blood starts pooling. Like, I mean, it is a convincing shot to the head.
Yeah. No, it's extremely convincing.
So then we get to the housekeepers cleaning up the mess as Steven speaks to the group, bringing up the new positions available at Falconheart, unveiling the night will be a competition for the position.
Yes.
But not specifically what the competition will be, that there's just a competition already in progress.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think it's becoming clear what the competition is.
Yeah.
It's whatever they want to fuck with them about.
Exactly. So Steven takes them into the library as Kiwi rejoins them, redressed and cleaned up, and the next round starts off with Ted telling Steven why Gavin shouldn't get the job. And Gavin apparently is a bit of an asshole to the cart, the guy that has the food cart named Guillermo, and has a bad habit of using the R word, even though Guillermo has a kid with Down syndrome, and like they kind of go at it for a good bit.
Yeah, well, because his point is like, I know him.
I know him. I know his name. I talk to him. Like, I know about his kid. Like, you don't even know any of that. You just care about yourself.
Well, it's funny because even the boss, he knows him like vaguely.
Like he gets the name wrong.
He's like, I think he's like Miguel
or something like that.
And then he's like from El Salvador. He's like, no, it's Guillermo from I think it was Argentina or Venezuela.
Yeah,
or something
like that.
So, but it's funny. It's like he kind of knows him, but not really.
Yeah. And this allows him to bring up, do they tell their wives everything? Because there's been a question already about Ted working these late hours Friday night, like staying at the office until midnight, and that we'll get into that a little bit more. But more so, he's like, do you guys tell your wives everything? And they're like, yeah. You don't keep any secrets. And that's when he reveals that he recorded his and Gavin's conversation.
And he plays it for him.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, that's a good strengthening for your relationship right there.
Pissed off, storms off, and that's when Steven tells everyone to take 5, relax, and have a drink. Missy goes into a bathroom as we see a peephole slide in a shelf, like right behind her.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions being raised very quickly. In this little film.
So she goes in to look in, and that's when something grabs her hand. She pulls it, or no, that's the second time, because the first time she didn't see anything. Yeah. So she goes in to look, peephole's gone, and that's when there's a knock at the door, and it's Steven, and he's like, Missy, please come out. Like, if you open the door right now, I'm literally on my knees, like, begging you to come out. She opens the door. He is. And that's when he offers her, a little something for his troubles, and he wants to have a kiss.
And
it could probably help Gavin in this situation, so he says.
How innocent.
So they share a kiss, and she goes to walk away, and he's like, no, maybe something more, and goes to push her head down, but then she storms off out of the room right back into the library. And Kiwi notices immediately what's going on.
Yeah. She's she may have been born at night, but not last night.
Yeah. So that is when Gavin tries to apologize to her, but she isn't having it. And Kiwi even is like, do you see like the state she's in? Like, do you understand what my husband just did to your wife? Like, doesn't that make you mad?
This movie, the twists and turns are very intense.
Yeah.
The movie just kind of, and it's got a kinetic pace to it as well. So you kind of just have to, obviously with all movies, you kind of sit back and enjoy the ride, but you kind of have to just sit back and go,
okay,
all right, where are we going now?
Yeah.
What's about to happen here now?
And what's about to happen is Kiwi goes up to the wall and grabs her own rifle this time.
Yeah.
But now there's confusion because did the rifle have a live round in it? Or, is this the rifle that doesn't shoot anything? And that's when, as a good measure of faith, she's like, Gavin, hold out your hand.
Yeah.
So Gavin holds out his hand because he's just like, yeah, no problem. And they fire a shot and shoot Gavin right in the fucking hand.
And there's no way that's pretend.
No.
We see the hole in his hand.
I was impressed no fingers got blown off. I will say that.
Well, got him right in the palm.
Got him right in the palm.
Yeah, we don't know what kind of bullet was in that thing.
So Tatum goes to call the police again, but Gavin insists for them not to do it as the job's important. He's dedicated to this. So confrontation continues outside as Kiwi is now attempting to drown herself because she's tied her scarf to a cherub right outside by the swimming pool. And one of my favorite things about this part is they have a fucking fireplace outside.
Of course.
Like a full-blown fireplace.
Well, where do you keep it? I mean, where do you keep your second fireplace?
I wish I had a first. I mean, I do. I just can't put any fire in it.
Oh, well, then it's not really. It's just a place at that point.
It's a place where my entertainment center is.
It's just a place. It's not a fireplace.
It's not a fireplace. It's just a place.
Yeah.
So that's when Steven gives Gavin some pills, and he's like, here, these should help you. And he's like, well, what were they? He's like, I don't know. Found them in the couch, but you should have some fun. Like Julian Sands is so good in this.
Oh, he's having a blast. He's
so
just
good.
leaning into it, chewing on the scenery, just having a blast.
So Gavin takes the pills down, and that's when Steven invites Tatum to try and talk to Kiwi, give her some support, woman to woman and everything. And that's when Kiwi, by this point, questions if she can, if there's like an issue like going on and whatnot. And she's like, we had an issue with our son. So now there's a question of what happened between Steven and Kiwi and their son.
Right.
And that's when she also asked her to go get a towel out of the bathroom for her. So she goes into the bathroom, goes to get the towel off the rack, and a hand grabs her from behind the shelf.
Yes. More questions.
More questions.
Constantly more questions being raised.
And their bathroom is lit really eerily. Both the bathrooms.
Well, again, I mean, you wouldn't understand as a person with no fireplace.
Yes, exactly.
That, it's important to have the right ambiance for your deposit.
It wasn't until rewatching this that I was just like, why do all the cool bathrooms have to be in video games and horror films? Because Hitman has some really cool lighting, like fluorescent lighting in one of the missions I was playing a couple days ago.
Well, bathrooms are generally not very exciting.
Mm-mm.
So
Unless you're rich.
Yeah, well, I mean, I my buddy Mike, he and his girlfriend have a bathroom with heated floors.
Oh, damn.
In their obscene house.
I think my favorite has always been the toilet and bench warmers where Rob Schneider's character goes to take a piss and he's like, such and such, you need to stop eating all that fast food or you're going to die. Like they take a recent urine analysis.
Yeah. That's what I need. I need a urinalysis toilet.
So she runs back to the group and she's like, something grabbed me in there. And he's like, what are you talking about? And that's when Ted is trying to kind of impress the boss and be like that he doesn't fully believe her, which pisses Missy off or Tatum off. And that's when Kiwi is like, yeah, we trust all our men. They're so great. And unties herself from the cherub. Again, another ruse, basically.
Yeah. There's so many ruses here.
There really are.
And that's kind of, it's funny because as we're watching this, I wonder, as I was rewatching it, I wondered if they were prepared to remove Christmas from it and make this the April Fool's Day episode because it pulls the rug almost as much as I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
The best April Fool's Day episode of the two. But yeah, it's constantly rug pulling.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Well, and it's like it plays a little bit on that classic. Why can't I think of her name all of a sudden? The chick that
Agatha Christie.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. That whole and then there were then there were none.
Yeah,
and
10 Little Indians.
Yeah, 10 Little Indians. Like it plays on that whole of a gathering of people in a house and something's gone wrong, but we don't know exactly what actually is real and what's not.
Yeah, and there's the element of it's your boss.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many, many, many people can identify with having to put up with your boss, having to, tolerate your boss. I think that if you want to grow, and honestly, I'm a bad example of this because I haven't had a boss in a decade.
Yeah.
But it always seemed like if you wanted to grow in a position, you had two choices.
Mm-hmm.
Either just be a straight up kiss ass, like what's his name? What's
Gavin?
Gavin, or try to like your boss.
Yeah.
Like try to like it's similar to ass kissing, except you're legitimately like, okay, I'll let whatever stupid thing he said go and just try to like being around this guy because he's supposed, he's my boss and he's supposed to help me grow in this business or whatever. And the fact that they're at a hedge fund is perfect because they are extremely competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Hedge funds are massively competitive. I'm almost certain that the turnover is really high.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in a lot of businesses, CEOs and presidents and vice presidents of companies, the turnover is usually really high And then you'll get somebody like in show business, like Sid Sheinberg will just be the head for like 25 years.
Yeah.
Because he was good at it.
Yeah.
But often between the Sid Sheinbergs or the, Steve Jobses or whatever, you'll get like, and he was the CEO for 5 months.
For 5 months.
And he was the CEO for 8 months. Yeah. And and she was the CEO for 2 years.
Well, clearly what they needed was Undercover Boss to come in.
My God. This is basically Undercover Boss for sociopaths.
Yeah,
like,
in a sense.
Oh, you thought I was dead, but I'm your alive boss. It's like, oh God, why do you own rallies? I was not actually a guy with a wig on.
I actually shot you.
You insulted my mustache.
So the group moved back inside the house. Ted tries to apologize to Tatum, and that's when we get lesson 5, adapt.
Oh, well, and that's the big one.
Yeah, so Steven pours another round of drinks as Ted sees a giant portrait of a young boy on the wall. Gavin feels the effects of the pills, and he's offered to try on some armor that he's noticing that Steven has, which is one of my favorite things. That he's just looking at the suit of armor, and Steven's like, well, you want to try it on?
It's like, sure.
He's so fucking high at this point.
Well, and that's the worst part. He's a kiss ass.
Yeah.
And now he's high on probably like Percocet or something. So now he's like even more suggestible because he'd already do whatever the boss said.
Yeah.
But now he's like,
I'll put the armor on.
I'll do that.
Well, and while he's putting the armor on, this is also when Steven takes the point to go ahead and let them know that due to the fact that this new position is open, it's going to eliminate their 2 positions. So in a sense, somebody gets a job and somebody is fired.
Imagine.
Yeah.
It's almost, it's Glenn Ross-ish. I always love that. Third place is you're fired.
Third place is you're fired. So Ted doesn't believe it, calling the whole evening a sham, and Gavin offers to face off against Ted, even stating that he'd kill Tatum or Missy for $1 million at this point. So that's when Steven offers Gavin a massage chair to relax. So Gavin sits in a really nice massage chair. Kiwi then relates a story of how their 12-year-old son was in boarding school one night. He stole a car. Less than a mile from the house, something awful happened, and Ted still doesn't believe it. He does not believe that they had a kid. He doesn't believe any of this. Like, he's just like, y'all are fucking with us, and I've had it.
Yeah, he's done with it because he's not an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a bit on the desperate side.
Yeah.
But we're about to learn his competitor is far more desperate in just about every conceivable way.
So that's when Tatum asks, why are they still here if Ted doesn't believe it? And that's when Steven states they should call it a night. He'll render a decision Monday and excuse Ted to warm up the car while he shows Gavin a medieval like Thor hammer. And he's like, I thought you might like this. And naturally, Gavin picks up the hammer.
Well, yeah.
So
if you can pick it up, you're meant to pick it up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So as Ted's walking out, he is walking into the entryway, and he sees 2 people upstairs now wearing the mask like we saw earlier on the wall. So they peek around the corner and then go back. So naturally, he follows them up the steps, can't find them, goes through the corridors, goes to the hallways, and then comes to a room that's filled with nothing but like really creepy statues.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an understatement. And that's kind of the thing. So what we've been getting throughout this is a hint of either Skull and Bones or Freemason style.
Something is going on.
Society.
Yeah, something's going on. It's not just the fact that we are seeing people inside the house. We're seeing these masks. We're seeing these people now wearing these masks. We've seen secret passageways.
Well, even Julian Sands' character being British makes him seem old world.
Yeah.
And all of these concepts are kind of old world. This idea of like, of a cabal, of the robes and the ceremonies.
And we have no idea how big this house is either. I mean, we see the outside of it and we go through like 3 rooms, but this thing could be housing many secrets.
Oh, the place is gigantic.
It's gigantic.
I mean, for God's sake, it has a fireplace outside.
I want a fireplace outside.
I know, buddy.
I have a fire pit. That's the best I got, like a poor person.
Yeah. And it's in the backyard, not in your house.
But, the key is burning all the wood while the sun is still up.
Yeah, so everybody gets a good sweat on, and then when it gets cold, there's no more fire left.
No fire left.
No, that was the first Joe Bob Briggs marathon.
Yes, it was. It was the last drive-in.
Yeah,
I'm a pyro, man. What do you want?
You brought an entire...
I brought like 10 skids of wood easily.
You brought a ton of, skids, literal skids.
Little skids, yeah.
Not skids of wood, but the wood from skids.
The wood are skids.
Yeah.
Wooden skids.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And you burned like all, because I remember because it was about 11 o'clock and we were having to put like one little piece in because you'd burned half of it when the sun was still
I
up.
like fires and I like the flames to be large. You've been to my birthday parties, you know this.
That's true.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching you tend to the fire while a little
if it gets to be
charming
too much, I usually don't tend to like when it was quarantine and I was literally at the fire pit like every single night. Oh man, yeah, I was toasty around those times. That's where I actually melted like one of the pokers because I had it in there way too long.
Sure you didn't just step on it because you couldn't find it?
No.
Because it was really hard to find those pokers.
It was. No, it was. But this is actually like it burned the claw off. Like it was just down to the thing. Like the ashes had like got it and completely taken it.
Jesus.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would start at like 6 p.m. and it was not uncommon for me to be done at 2 a.m. And I would just keep, and I mean, I had access to all the wood I wanted, especially during quarantine, because I lived still by Dave's services at that point, so I could run over and get it whenever I wanted.
Get a pallet, because
yeah.
they just had stacks and stacks of pallets.
Yes. So that is when he finds the room with the really creepy statues, and he's ambushed by Gavin, breaking the hammer on his head, revealing that the hammer is completely like fake plastic, and he's even like, what the hell? So that's when he picks up a cherub head and tries to beam him with it.
Well, of course. I mean, what else are you going to do?
So they get into a scuffle. He starts chasing him around, and that leads them back into the library room. And that's when Steven stops him, holding the rifles, telling him to choose wisely. So he's holding the two guns up at this point, and he's like, choose which one. Which one could it be? So that's
just by saying choose wisely, you're suggesting that one will not work.
Yeah.
Which makes everything more of a question, because it's not a game of brutality, it's a game of chance and brutality.
So Ted takes the rifle, takes an aim right at Gavin, but he can't pull the trigger. He can't bring himself to do it. So that's when we go to lesson 6, go for the jugular.
Oh, God.
So Ted rejoins the other members back in the room now. Steven questions how could he let his chance of winning slip away, and Ted still doesn't believe any of this is real. So Steven tells Kiwi to wake him up and invite him in, because now it's time to meet the guest of honor. As a giddy Kiwi gets up, leaving the room, only to re-enter with a young man on a motorized wheelchair who they've dressed as Santa Claus with a beard.
And he appears to be severely disabled.
Yes.
Mentally and physically.
Yes.
Unable to speak, really. It's disturbing.
It's very disturbing.
Because as they're wheeling him out, she's like groping on him.
She's groping on him, riding on the chair. Like I said, he's got a fake a Santa beard on, and he's completely out of it too, of course. And that's when she takes the beard off, revealing his name to be Jim, but Ted immediately recognizes him.
Yeah, and he seems to recognize Ted.
Yes.
In his way, because he can't speak.
Yeah. So Kiwi, that's when 2 seconds here, I lost my place.
This guy, I swear.
I'm such a piece of shit.
I'll sit up straight while you're at it.
I'm trying. So that's when Kiwi invites Missy to sit on Jim's lap, take her for a spin, which she does until she gets uncomfortable. Like Missy starts like actually crying almost.
Yeah.
And that's when Steven gives Jim a drink of scotch, gets it all over him, and Kiwi leans in to kiss him, but Ted has had it. He points the gun at them, telling them to stop it. And they're like, well, what's the problem? And that's when he reveals his name isn't Jim, it's Daniel. And 3 years ago, Ted was on a work errand trying to impress his boss, driving too fast, and Daniel, who was riding his bike with no lights, got hit by the car and unfortunately really messed him up.
Yeah.
So they put him in a facility, and Ted has been visiting him every Friday after work for the last year, I'm guessing.
Which is so incredibly sad. I mean, that not only that this person would be hurt like this, but that he would make it a mission of his to spend time with this person he hurt, because he feels such an incredible amount of shame.
Yeah.
But now this person is a pawn in this game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's a human being who's been hurt.
Yeah.
Had enough problems in life. Doesn't really need to be a part of this game.
No, and he is exactly part of the game for them now. So Steven invites Ted to put Daniel out of his misery with the rifle and claim the position that he so rightfully deserves. And Ted tells him he doesn't want a life like this, placing the rifle down and telling Steven he's taking him back home. And that's when Steven reveals he is home. They took him from the facility and that he has no other place to go now. So you would really only be like taking him out of our misery in this sense, because we're going to just keep fucking with him if you leave him here with us.
Well, and he pulls the whole thing. He's like, they were delighted that it's such a nice home. So people with so much money were willing to take on the burden.
Yeah.
It's so
so messed up. So that's when Gavin grabs the rifle, offering to do it instead. And Ted stands in his way as Gavin fires, revealing a blank.
Yes. And this film, by the way, is definitely using a movie watcher's understanding
of a gun,
of guns, of blanks.
Yes.
I don't think it desperately needs to be mentioned, but blanks are actually very dangerous.
Well, and also
in close proximity.
I think what we're about to reveal in regards to this does not exist.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, it's a nasty little piece of work.
Nasty piece of work.
Yeah. So, but that's a thing to point out is like in reality, if you shot somebody from 5 feet away with a blank, likely they would get hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
With the chance they could get hurt a lot. Likely they would just be hurt a little bit because the blank actually has, in order for it to work, it has to have like a piece of cardboard covering the end of the cartridge, and usually maybe even a little bit of cotton or something that would shoot out of the front. So yeah, you don't actually want to point it at people.
They can't have all their firearm statistics like nefarious.
Oh God.
The firing pin didn't go.
That was the one thing that was so weird. Anyway.
So, revealing a blank, and that's when Steven reveals the guns are remote controlled. With a single click of a button, they can switch back between blanks and live ammunition.
The way he says, he's like, "Are you aware that a semi-automatic, like what was it? Like I think he said like that an antique semi-automatic firearm can be controlled by a remote thing to change whether it's blanks or not." Impossible.
No,
in every
there's
way.
no way.
I mean, it's literally got a magazine built in.
Yeah.
That holds the bullets. There's literally no way to do that.
No.
At all.
So he invites the two to see the demonstration, causing Ted to accidentally shoot Gavin in the shoulder, revealing Gavin was never up for the position and that this has been a test for Ted the entire night. But Gavin wants another chance, grabbing the rifle, telling him to switch back to the live ammo and shoot Ted. But that's when Tatum grabs the gun and shoots a shot, killing Steven.
Yeah.
So Steven is out of the game.
Yes. And we didn't really touch on Gavin's the asshole, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I always forget.
Yeah.
They should just name him Always Dave. It'll be easier to remember.
Thanks, bud.
But we didn't really get into his motivation.
No.
Because he's a guy, he dresses the part, he acts the
Drives
part
the car.
of being this, high-end hedge fund manager guy. But in reality, he's up to his eyeballs in debt.
Yeah.
He's struggling all the time. He needs this desperately.
Yeah.
And he even openly says like that his girlfriend or his wife rather is what you have to have too. You need to have the trophy hot wife because, I'm not with her for her community college, education. So this guy has proven that he has an immense amount to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways is far more desperate than we would have guessed.
Very little self-respect.
But it also makes him scarier because before he was just very cutthroat.
Yeah.
But now we're realizing, no, he's
got everything to lose.
And people who are desperate are really dangerous.
Yeah.
Way more dangerous than people who are just on the callous side of things. So it makes him, really friggin' scary.
Yeah. So Tatum puts Steven out of his misery, shooting him dead. And that's when suddenly Daniel stands up, revealing he's not injured. And he never signed up for any of this.
What a great twist.
Yeah.
So this gentleman who was in a wheelchair, basically a vegetable, has just jumped up and went, "Oh no, I didn't sign up for this." So now we find out that it was always a ploy.
It was always a ruse. Yeah.
He was never injured.
No.
It was all a plan. And he mentions that he had to go to that place and pretend to be like that every Friday for a really long time.
Yeah.
Which also suggests that in a way, the grooming for this position was going on for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really figure out if the plan was always just to fuck with him or if the plan was to build
his character,
the right person
yeah.
for this job.
So Ted's in disbelief and questions how long they've been plotting this as an angry Kiwi charges at Tatum, who then fires another shot, killing Kiwi dead as well. Telling everyone, let's go home.
Now, before we move on, Dave,
to the finale,
this was something I wanted to mention, but the movie zoomed by so quick when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
What's the dumbest thing a boss has ever asked of you, or the stupidest or whatever? Like, give me a boss story that you can't. I mean, because I know that I'm not just playing safe for you, but you really don't have a problem with your current bosses.
No, I love my bosses.
I never hear you complain.
And actually, I don't have a problem with my old boss now because I actually was just driving him last week when he was in sober taxi.
Well, that doesn't mean anything about the past.
I mean, probably the most ridiculous one where I actually like felt like legitimately. I'll give you two. One incident I had, which I may have actually, I think I've already told this story, right? How I had the fight with Scott when I was in my ghost tour makeup with the rainstorm. The football game, the camera went down.
It was a while ago.
It might have even been on Freddy's. Long story short, I used to do videography for high school sports in my town, and we had a very big football game of our local rival, which is Troy versus Piqua, that just so happened to fall on the first night of an event my mother and I used to run called Ghost Tours of Troy. And that's where I do costume storytelling. We have, tours that go through all the haunted history of Troy. So I had set up my intern at the time to record that game. And weather-wise, we had been really, really good so far. Like, it hadn't really rained any of the season. We hadn't had really any issues. But I knew there was a potential for rain. So I was like, well, hey, like, here's the cover for it. Keep the bag out of the rain as best you can, blah, blah, blah. Thought everything was fine. Left my intern, went back to do ghost tours, did the first round of tours, which basically we had 6 every night for Friday at least, specifically. Did the first tour, maybe even the second tour, and then I get a call from my intern, and he's like, hey, the camera is dead. And I'm like, what do you mean the camera's dead? Now, keep in mind, this is the Troy Pickle game. It's our biggest rivalry game of the year. And at this point, we're doing the sports show at Buffalo Wild Wings and showing this game at the sports show on Monday. So It's Friday. I have to have a game DVD ready by Monday to play at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Right.
So it puts me in a bit of a tight spot. Yeah. So I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, the camera's dead. Like, I like, it's on battery now, like the power supply, blah, blah, blah. He's like, everything's drenched. And I'm like, okay, well, stay right there. I'll be right there. So went over to the game. Camera was absolutely dead. We had the battery. We had 90 minutes of battery left. It's halftime at this point, so we absolutely could. But I went ahead and said, okay, let's get this shit back to the studio. Let's get it looked at, and you try to get it working and whatnot. So I texted my old teacher and got a copy of the game. So secured that ahead of time, so I was all good on that. So now the focus was basically checking on the camera. So me and my intern get back, and Scott's at his desk, and basically, I didn't hide anything. I was just like, hey, here's the situation. Like, this is not working. The bag's soaked. And like, he looked at it and he's like, well, why is this stuff all wet? And I was like, Scott, I'm trying to work on this, blah, blah, blah. We got into it a little bit, and he was just like, well, how'd this happen? Blah, blah, and just shouting at me. So I was just like, Scott, I don't fucking know how it happened. I'm trying to figure it out. Let me figure it out. And he just, that's it. You get out of here, blah, blah, blah. You come back Monday. We'll see if you have a job. I look around, my intern's gone. Like, he had booked it. Keep in mind, again, full skull makeup. Like, I'm in my ghost tour makeup. I've got my eyes done, my skull makeup on. I'm in my ghost tour attire, and I'm working on this stuff. So long story short, again, I talked Scott down. I ordered a new charger. Everything was all good on that. But like, we had to have like a 10 to 15 minute conversation of me and him in his office. Cause like, he's just like, this situation, blah, 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 it shouldn't happen. I don't have a problem if you do your things, but make sure everything's protected. I always thought that was funny though, because it's funny to think of him just like sitting at me, like in my ghost tour makeup.
Oh,
and we're having a conversation. Stupidest thing I ever had to do though was, along with the video stuff, I had to keep the website updated. So we had our Facebook page that housed the videos, and then we had the actual TCT website where the links were hosted and it looked nice and everything. We didn't get much website attraction. So it kind of fell on the back burner a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean for months.
Of course.
And it just so happened the one day he had a client, he was showing off the website, and he realized that it hadn't been updated. And he ended up sending me home like a little kid, sending me home to get the website completely updated. Did not care if I slept, did not care if I ate. 8 a.m. tomorrow, he wanted the website completely updated. So I had to leave and go do that. And the beauty of it was since, it takes a long time to upload videos to YouTube and whatnot. Mm-hmm. If you're behind, you're not going to have enough time to get that website updated. So my little secret was I just started recycling links and putting them in certain spots for like mayor's reports and stuff, and completely hiding their dates and changing them.
Oh.
And he never found out.
Well, clearly not.
No.
I wish I had funny, stupid boss stories from when I had day jobs. I don't. No. I had a really crappy boss. My last day job, he was just shitty. He once took me aside to tell me I needed to take my job more seriously because the movie thing is a pipe dream.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, you're not my fucking dad.
No.
So, there's that, but I have had hilarious experiences on sets that were not mine.
Yeah.
That were pretty fascinatingly stupid. And one of my favorites was I was working on a movie for a friend of a friend, and they were getting ready to film a shower scene, tasteful one. There was no nudity or anything, but they had to film this person in the shower.
Yeah.
And they had a little bit of dialogue and stuff like that. And I was production hand, nothing like crazy. And I go to make sure food is ready or is arriving on time.
Mm-hmm.
I come back and they've been working on getting this shot ready for like 25, 30 minutes. And it's a little tiny bathroom. You can only put up maybe 2 lights at most.
Yeah.
That maybe one more if you put it outside the window, but it was daytime, so you don't have to. And I come in and I'm like, so how's this going? And they're like, we're trying to figure it out. I was like, figure out what? Like, I mean, because it's so snug or whatever. And he's like, well, no, the problem is the lens is fogging
up.
And he was like, so we tried opening that window, but it only opens like this, like a half a foot wide. And I sent one of the PAs to see if there's a fan in the house. And he comes up with the fan and he's like, where do I put it? There's no room in there.
No space.
So I turn to him and I say, I think I have a solution. He's like, well, let's see if the fan works. And I'm like, no, please just. So this dude who I had never directed anything and never finished this movie.
Yeah.
He can't fit the fan in.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to figure that out. And finally I say, hey, use lukewarm water.
Yep.
And there'll be no steam.
Yep.
And he was like,
good call.
Okay. And then they did that. And I was like, God, what a stupid thing.
I think my favorite, your set survival or saving story, I think is still the fake cocaine.
Oh, that might've been, I think that was the same project.
Was it the same project?
Yeah. There was a scene where they had set up this living room and there was this gargantuan pile of cocaine.
Scarface pile.
Yeah. It was like flour or something on the coffee table.
Yeah.
And I just asked the director, I was like, so I haven't had a chance to read all of the script. Is there a reason that this main character would have like $850,000 worth of cocaine just on their coffee table? And he was like, no. So then we were all just getting as much of leaving like a couple of grams worth.
Yeah.
But it was like, just these giant white piles all over this coffee table. The first thing I knew, I looked at it, I was like, well, that's like somebody kill you over that much cocaine.
Yeah, I would say so.
And not someone who's using it, somebody who's selling it.
Somebody's selling it.
So no, there were little things like that. There was the time that I was working on a set when I was a teenager, and they were trying to get the camera. They had the camera the way they wanted it, but they were having a problem with a reflection of light off of they had the camera in a closet, and the closet door, it was a slide door. It was like reflecting light or something. And they were taping it and they were trying to put like Duvetine over it and stuff, and nothing would work. And finally I came in and I was like, so what's going on? Cause we were getting ready to run late for lunch.
Yeah.
And they told me the problem. I went, 1 second. And I just walked over and I picked the door up and I just left the room.
Yeah.
Like I just, I didn't even say anything. I just picked it up and I went somewhere else with the whole door.
Yeah.
And I get it though. When you're in charge, especially, there's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not comfortable with that pressure, it will make you make dumb mistakes.
Yeah.
And even when you are comfortable with it, it'll make you make dumb mistakes.
Oh yeah.
I've always been that's really why I ended up in the job I ended up in, was that I'm really good under pressure. In fact, in many ways, I'm better under pressure. When I'm waiting to film a movie for 5 or 6 days, I am just like, is there anything I forgot? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything I do? Once I'm there, I'm like, it's like, oh, this thing broke. And I'm like, well, then we don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm fine with solving the problem.
The first night I ever had my radio show, when I used to do Saturday Night House Party, there was a state of emergency declared in downtown because there was an active shooter reported in the building that I was recording out of.
Did it turn out to be bunk?
didn't really ever find out anything much except for the fact like they closed down downtown. Like they closed it down. The cop cars were on all ends. The square was not having any traffic. Jesus. Cops are walking around with automatic weapons.
So you can't quite see, but this is Dave's. This was his automatic weapons.
Yeah.
It looks like a guitar.
Yeah.
So was Cobra just like soloing.
But yeah, I had a cop knock on the door and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing a radio show. And he's like, okay, we'll just stay here until one of us come to get you. Nobody ever came to got me.
Yeah, it probably turned out to be a false alarm. I mean, that's usually what they tend to be.
I mean, I had that happen. I had a tornado break out on air one time while I was on air.
Like in the studio?
Yeah, and it just came right in the studio. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had like any like really, really funny stuff happen. I've had really awful stuff happen at that job, but yeah, I mean
that sounds funny to me, but no, I get you.
I mean, there was the night that my sister and my boss got into it the week of my uncle's funeral.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I really remember
I'm not going into that.
No. No, I luckily, I guess. I only ever had one day job that I like wanted to climb the ladder in, and it just was not going to happen. And it was for the better.
Yeah.
I think.
I get that.
And it's funny because like you said with your boss, when I left that job, I was pretty angry at my former boss.
Yeah.
And then over a year or two, I discovered what was actually going on, what he was dealing with professionally, just like the reality of the situation. And when I saw him again and it was better, he was a happier person and everything. And I realized I was happy for him.
Yeah.
And I would consider him at this point, which is bizarre to think, at this point, he and I have been friends over 20 years. So he's actually one of my dearest friends.
Yeah.
But it's funny how like for 10 years, I was like, oh yeah, my former boss. And now when I talk about him, I'm like, oh yeah, my best friend.
Yeah.
I mean, like, one of my longest friendships.
No.
So it is funny how that can go.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine what it would be like working in an environment that competitive. I mean, I've worked on sets where there are people in it for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's miserable.
Oh yeah.
Because everything is about, and it's already one of the number one things you have to do on a movie set, regardless of the size of the production, is manage egos. And the egos go a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You'll have people who feel disrespected by decisions. You'll have people who want to be heard for the sake of it.
Yeah.
They don't actually have anything to suggest or offer.
Yeah.
But they want to be heard and acknowledged.
Well, and like my issue that I ran into helping on sets every now and then, no offense to any of yours by this, there's certain people that can work that can handle a set and there's certain people that can't.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest issue is just like, there's some that handle dictating either the work or dictating what needs to be done. And then there's some that just expect it to happen.
Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, being able to delegate is really hard for some people.
Yeah.
And, generally on my sets, if I'm the director, there's usually everybody, they're mostly our general crew. So it's not like we have a dedicated cam op, eye cam op. It's not like we have a dedicated sound guy. We have a couple of people who have used the boom plenty.
Many times.
And we train them.
Yep.
We've trained them.
Yep.
But there's nobody who shows up and has, it's really about enthusiasm, not really about expertise necessarily. So.
Well, and you also got the people that show up expecting a Hollywood type set, and it's just like, this ain't that thing.
Well, and people who, ironically enough, don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
When that is literally your entire job.
Yeah.
If you're not the director, is to be told what to do.
The number one thing that can turn me off from inviting somebody to come like work on a set, if like I've been either asked to find volunteers or whatnot, is just like, oh, it must be fun. It's like, if you're thinking that it's going to be fun, I don't know necessarily if I want.
Well, see, but that's the weird thing is like people constantly tell me that some of the most stressful sets I've ever been on were really fun.
Yeah.
So I've just realized I'm just not aware.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I've had people say like, oh, it's the best. It's like a party. And I'm like,
I've been on sets of people that don't want to work. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah.
People that want to hang out.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No, though there's no doubt about that.
Yes.
One of the big jokes is always like when you hire a bunch of film people to be on your set is that it'll be like, okay, so you're in you're an associate producer. You're going to be in charge of this and this and this and this. And then it's like, anyway, they're over there talking to an actor about like, I'm directing a movie right now. You really gotta curb that. The hardest part, honestly, has been when I'm producing for someone in this part of the country, like John Oak Dalton or Eric Whiting or whoever. The hardest part is just asking the crew and cast not to listen to me.
That's fair.
I mean, like I'm always like, they'll come to me and ask a question like, no. I am not the boss on this one.
Yeah.
That is Eric or that is John. Yep. Like I'm here to support Eric and John. And that can always be a little tricky at times.
Don't bring it to me.
But because I don't want to usurp.
No, exactly.
Well, and that's the hardest part though, especially when you're working on a movie where you may have the most experience, but you're not in charge. Is like if you think somebody's messing up, you don't just go like, actually, that wasn't a good take.
Yeah.
You would go, hey, can I talk to you for a second?
I remember and we'll wrap this up with this. I remember I was very impressed with the Boggy set, especially when you got a compliment from Brink Stevens for giving an actor direction.
Yeah, no, that was one of the most flattering times.
Yeah.
Well, because her entire thing was that she was like, I was not expecting quite that level of direction because of how technical I am. Because I was operating camera and I was the DP and I was, so I was doing all these, and because we had Brink for 2 whole days, I shot the hell out of her scenes. I used dolly tracks and we just really tried to get it to be great. And I was very flattered when she was like, wow, you're really giving like a lot of direction. And I was like, well, that's what I do. Yeah. But I get what she means though. Cause she told me that like a lot of directors are entirely technical. Yeah. And they don't really have a lot to say about your performance so much as getting it lit and in focus and getting the microphones right. And that is a major part of the job.
Well, and I mean, I think it also goes with the territory too, that there are some people that don't trust don't trust either who they're working with or don't trust themselves enough to delegate out. So they try to do everything. And then that's when they get into trouble too.
Well, delegation is hard. It's when you get really intense working, the reason delegation is scary in my experience is because if something messes up, you would rather it be your fault because then you only blame yourself. Yeah. There's a part of you that doesn't want to be mad at anybody.
No, well, obviously.
You'd rather be mad at yourself if something, screws up, but it's just kind of the nature of the beast. Yeah. And we all make mistakes probably.
And I just, sometimes there's distinguishing ego with like, it's not anything against anybody when I say this, but like I get nervous when I see writer, director, producer as the same person sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it can be tricky.
Yeah.
But
because I've seen opening credits where it's just like, ba-boom, ba-boom. It's the same person's name over and over again.
Yeah, but then there's also like, I got massive positive marks on my movie for having the best photography because I hired out and I just used a fake name.
Yeah.
And I was like, so it is perception.
It is perception.
So, perception. I mean, it's like when I went in and Hatchet Manned a few movies. You can't credit the additional writers and the additional director, or else the audience will see all the additional
6,
names
7
and
names.
know there's a problem.
Yeah.
And then they'll decide it's not as good.
Yeah.
That's a big
Well, it's like
thing.
Watching Last Action Hero this past weekend. There's a lot of writers on that those credits. Yeah.
Anyway.
So he says, let's go home. The group go to leave, and they come face to face with a wall of empty ornate masks. No masker there at all.
Yes. Such a good reveal.
So that's when they look outside and they see several people now donning the mask, all standing in the driveway right outside the front door.
And it is very eerie, but luckily it's not eerie for long.
It's not eerie for long because they basically say that Ted blew the whole evening because it was planned as a test for him to join the company. As they question, does he have any idea what he's done? And then that's when they comment that you just saved us $40 million in benefits from account years ago was worth. I mean, Kiwi could spend on an account, and Steven's, lack of attention to it, blah blah blah, revealing they're all shareholders for Falconhurst or Falconheart.
Yeah, they're the cabal of investors at the hedge fund, and at first they're mad until they realize this was such a great idea. Yeah. We're saving so much money.
So they call him brilliant and stating that it's a Christmas miracle, and the group embraces him, and Ted questions, so wait, is there really a position open now? And they take a second, and then they're just like, I guess there is one person who's absolutely qualified from their experience tonight.
And an opening just so happens to have happened.
And they've demonstrated
right
that Falcon heart material.
Oh, yes.
So sometime later, Ted has now returned to the office. He sits next to Gavin, who's healing his hand, like he has the bandage on it and everything, questioning how his hand is doing. But they're interrupted as Tatum from the front office tells them to get back to work, revealing that she is now the head of Falconheart. And that's when we see step 7, never take your eyes off an underdog.
Yeah, and that's because she's ready to drop the Des Moines Hammer.
Yes, she is. And that is 2019's Into the Darks, a nasty piece of work.
And it really is.
It really is.
But it ends in a somewhat feel-good-ish way.
Yeah.
Unless you want to look at it as that she'll become just as bad as Julian Sands' character eventually.
I think what I love about this one on a rewatch and just looking at everything from a whole of this entire month of looking into the dark, this one specifically, you're given all the pieces, but you can't put them together until they actually show you where they go.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And that's what I love is like you get the creepy ass house, you get the ornate mask, you get the fact that there's going to be a competition that's going to get to deadly blows.
Yes.
And then they completely just blow it all up at the end.
Oh yeah, they're fucking with you the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun.
No, it's a lot of fun. Julian Sands is so good. Molly Hagan's great in it. I mean, the twists and turns alone are a lot of fun, but then just the performances just get more and more sporadic, and it's just like, oh my God, are these people really out there like this? And yes, there probably are.
A decent amount. I mean, what was that saying? The rich really are different.
The rich really are different.
That's one of my favorite things in what's that movie?
I'm trying to remember what it is.
Ready or Not.
Yeah, Ready or Not.
Yeah, the rich are different, which actually was almost one of my recommendations, but I decided not to go with it.
Look at you.
So
but yeah, final thoughts for it. This is a must watch. This is probably my favorite of the entire Into the Dark run, to be honest. Yeah, this is really, really up there. It's just got a nastiness to it.
And a workiness to it.
It's got a nastiness to it. It's got a lot of dark fun. It's got a great like conclusion that's so satisfying.
Mm-hmm. It's got style.
It's got style
because the way they film this really fascinating mansion is gorgeous. The music that it kind of adds the to the majesty of it.
Yeah,
majesty's a good word.
Majesty's a great word. Yeah, and it just has that feeling of you think you know what you're getting, and then at the very end they're just like, nope.
Just kidding.
Yeah. So it's a must watch for me, must watch for you.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my all-time favorite, but I haven't been able to pick one.
I get that.
So
I'm probably not going to make that call exactly until I go back, because I've still got I think 10 to watch in total of the entire. So once I do a full rewatch, once I do a full rewatch, then I'll probably have an idea. Speaking of rewatch, a honorable mention as we close out March Into the Dark. I wanted to go with 2020's The Current Occupant, and this is one that really weird, very slow burn, but keeps you guessing the entire time. And it says, trapped in a mysterious psychiatric ward, a man with no memory comes to believe that he's the president of the United States and the subject of a diabolical political conspiracy. As the asylum's soul-crushing forces bear down on him, he fights to preserve his sanity and escape so that he can return to power. And Barry Watson's our main character in this, that is the supposed president.
So fun. You really don't know what's going on.
No, you do not.
In the funnest way possible.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it is directed by Julius Ramsey, who is actually a director on the Purge series, too. So really, really good resume on that creator as well.
Which, if you haven't seen the Purge series, but you've seen the movies, watch the series.
Yeah.
It's so good.
But yeah, Current Occupant is one that you think you know what's going on, and then that last 5 minutes will leave you speechless.
Oh, that's a great one. And that's one nice thing about TV movies in general.
Yeah.
Is the most powerful weapon you have in your arsenal, if you're a television movie, is intrigue and twists.
Yeah.
Because the more questions people have, the more likely they'll sit through the commercial break to the next part.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing, to end before every commercial break with some kind of cliffhanger that'll keep people around.
Well, it's like, I still to this day will argue one of the best television premieres of all time is the very first episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which is the one where the man picks up a woman, and she is basically like, that man just assaulted me.
No, he doesn't pick up a
woman.
Or no,
that's his wife. It's his wife.
He came home from being in the military, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that episode haunted me as a child.
It's so good.
It's excellent.
It is so good.
No, that's So good. Yeah.
So recommendations, we always like to close out the show with a couple. The first two I've got for this week. First one is 2012's Would You Rather, currently available on AMC Plus and Roku. It says, desperate to help her ailing brother, a young woman unknowingly agrees to compete in a deadly game of Would You Rather, hosted by a sadistic aristocrat, played by Jeffrey Combs.
Good guy.
Yes.
Good guy. And that's a guy who's easy to work with.
Yes.
And whose ego is reasonable.
That movie, if you have not seen Would You Rather, if you're not into the torture porn genre, probably would avoid that one. It's got some pretty nasty moments in it, especially when we get towards the end. But it is really, really good, really dark, and line up a light watch for that ending. Actually, both of these suggestions line up a light watch for, because second recommendation is 2016's The Belko Experiment, currently available on Tubi. In a twisted social experiment, 80 Americans are locked in a high-rise corporate office in Bogota, Colombia, and ordered by an unknown voice coming from the company's intercom system to participate in a deadly game of kill or be killed.
That's a hell of a film.
Really, really good movie. Really, really big gut punch. I remember sitting in the theater and it just turned my stomach a couple times for how serious it gets, but it is a fantastic thriller.
Yeah, a lot
that
of
I cannot
fun.
recommend enough.
So I went super indie.
Oh.
But I wanted to lean into the concepts of desperation and the rich being different and misleading.
Can I guess?
Okay, fine.
Suburban Nightmare?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Although that, I mean, it's a great film.
Yeah,
but I don't know about that one for this. But I went with 2013's Cheap Thrills.
Oh yeah, that was gonna be one of mine. Yeah.
Which is if you haven't seen it, I mean, my God, it's a great one. Let's see. So the IMDb synopsis: a scheming couple put a struggling family man and his old friend through a series of increasingly twisted dares over the course of an evening at a local bar. What they don't mention is it's all for money.
Yeah, all for money.
Which hence the term Cheap Thrills. It's available on Peacock and Fawsome for free.
It's
to watch on Roku and Tubi.
One of my favorite David Koechner roles, because
he's
it's
great.
It's not your typical Koechner. If you know Koechner's style, this is a really big departure for
David
him.
Koechner from Anchorman
and The Goods and 40 Years
Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Yeah.
No, he's a lot of fun. It also stars Pat Healy in one of his finest roles out. I think that and Compliance are my favorite roles of his.
Fuck, Compliance is dark.
Yeah.
Oof.
And Ethan Embry.
Yeah, Ethan Embry.
Another great performance from
Ethan Randall.
Embry. Oh, Ethan Randall. But Cheap Thrills, highly recommended.
Yeah.
That's one I need to revisit.
Yeah, I'm due for a rewatch on that.
I have
too.
the Blue.
We need to check that out then. Do we have any emails this week?
You know what? We actually did.
Gasp.
So let's see what we got here. So first we got a message. By the way, if you want to contact us, you can at doyouevenmovie.com, which is where this message was sent.
Yes.
Or you can send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. This one is from Tim Smith.
Okay.
And Tim says, you're going to love this, by the way. Says, with Henrique mentioning that he has some wrestling training, it made me want to bring up some wrestling-related movie suggestions.
Okay.
Then he says, I also wrestled for some independent companies in Illinois for 5 or 6 years in the early 2000s as Dexter Poindexter.
Hell yeah.
Being as though Henrique wrestled, I think he would bring a unique opinion and take on these. I did wrestle one match. I was a manager, but I was trained just the same.
Yeah.
Relatively. But his suggestions are: number 1, Ready to Rumble.
Wrestling's not fake.
Wrestling's not fake. I love Ready to Rumble.
It'll probably come to the show at some point. It's got to, I think.
Number 2, Paradise Alley.
Have not seen that in a long time.
I would like to revisit that one. It's been
down.
a very long time.
Yeah.
Number 3, one of my all-time favorite movies, The Wrestler.
Yep.
Which has to come to the show at some point, because that is a phenomenal feature film.
Yeah.
That is the film that made me realize I hated the Oscars, because it got snubbed and it deserved a lot of love.
Yeah.
And then number 4, the quintessential wrestling movie, No Holds Barred.
I knew it.
What's that smell? Dookie. That movie's so weird, but I do love it. But that movie's so weird.
I don't know if we could do a whole episode on it, but we could probably highlight it on an episode, I would think.
I mean, they invented a fictional bad guy character named Zeus and then made him an actual wrestler to promote the movie.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest.
It's odd.
It is super weird.
I would say the two likeliest would be The Wrestler and Ready to Rumble, because I think we both share an affinity for both of those.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to love about them.
Yeah.
He ends the email by saying, "Thank you for your time and helping the week go by and the workday go faster."
Well, thank you, Tim, for the email.
Yeah, and sincerely, there's no better compliment. As a literally lifelong podcast listener, I've been listening since 2003.
Yeah.
To podcasts back when it was hard to listen to them. You had to know how to paste an RSS feed and shit. I know how wonderful it is to have a show that helps your day go by faster. So there's no better compliment than that.
Absolutely.
And we have one more.
Okay.
Email, again, sent to doyouevenmovie.com. And this one is from Gray Cat.
Okay.
And it says, "Hi, I love your podcast. Would you ever consider talking about Turbo Kid? Thanks."
So full disclosure, I've never seen it.
I actually haven't either.
Yeah. I've heard I need to. I've heard I would love it. I really liked Psycho Gorman. I loved Kung Fury. So I mean, I'm sure it would be up my alley.
We should do it. We should watch it.
Yeah.
Like just get together and watch it and then we can
see how we feel.
Yeah.
Because is that the one company that did Manborg?
I believe so.
Astron 6. Astron 6, yeah.
I think so.
And I've liked most of their stuff. There's been a couple that I haven't been huge fans on, but overall I've enjoyed them. So I would definitely be up to talking. Because the only one of theirs that I really was not a fan of, even though I wanted to be, was The Editor, which was that Italian horror film.
I feel like I like that more than Father's Day. Was them, I think?
Oh, I forgot about Father's Day. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Father's Day either.
And he ends the email with a PS.
Mm-hmm.
Do some Freddy movies to bring back Enrique's impression.
I mean, I could do part 6 for my birthday this year. Make you could do that.
I mean, I like part 6.
I love part 6.
I mean,
I have a movie poster on my wall now for it.
Yeah. And an original pair of glasses.
Yes,
which
I do.
I ended up getting another pair and putting them on the set.
Beautiful.
But
Freddy movies have got to come at some point.
Yeah,
at least a couple.
I hope to one day be up to the task of being Freddy Krueger again after our Freddy's Nightmares podcast, because writing Freddy
puns,
jokes.
Yeah,
I wrote about almost 50 of them.
Yeah.
I got really tired.
You got burned out.
But I also got so in tune with it that sometimes as I was watching an episode of Freddy's Nightmares, I would write my joke and then Freddy would make a similar joke in the show and I'd go,
there it is.
Now I got to make another one.
Yeah.
I got to run with another one. So, but I definitely think there's room for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Reviews on this.
We could I think Freddy versus Jason would be one that would definitely bring a conversation about pretty decently.
Oh yeah,
I think so, because you have a completely different experience with it than I do as far as
I got to
seeing
see it in the theater.
Yeah, I was gonna say and all that.
Oh yeah. And
so I mean, that might be something.
And my girlfriend at the time was Team Jason, and I was Team Freddy.
I mean, he technically won.
That's what I said.
So
yeah.
Would you like to know what we are talking about next week as we are kicking off a new month and therefore a new theme?
You know what? Sure.
All right. Sounds good. So we are going to be kicking off our April showers theme with movies that are feature they either a heavy rainfall, a storm of some kind, and we are kicking it off with one that, how could we not, 1998's Hard Rain, starring Christian Slater, Morgan Freeman, Randy Quaid. Currently available on Pluto, Prime via rental, and Fandango at home. You can also rent it as well. And also I found out the Blu-ray's really out of print now.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have always had a soft spot for Hard Rain.
Same.
So I'm looking forward to talking about that. And we have quite the lineup of Rain.
We do.
Of Rain movies.
I am quite proud of this lineup, and you even made it an addition to it that I'm very, very excited for.
Because we'll get to break in the new 4K.
Yes, we will. And that's the only hint you're getting until now.
So I guess there's nothing else left to say, except that thank you all for bearing with us.
Yes.
This is one of our few late episodes. Everything worked against David.
It really did.
No, I
really fucking did.
when we had to cancel our makeup show.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for you. I wasn't mad because it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
But I felt so bad for you because I was like,
I was literally about to suggest, like, do you just want me to get on like one of our freaking web apps and just be like, hey, I'll just record it in the car. Yeah, I'll just do it from the car.
If you had been sick much longer, we probably would have had to.
Yeah.
But I'm trying. I like to do the show the way we do it.
Absolutely.
So I try to do it that way. So, but with that all being said, make sure you guys check out Hard Rain. We on the either renting it on Fandango.
Yep.
Where was it? What was
Pluto.
Pluto.
Yeah, you can rent it on Prime and Fandango. It's currently on Pluto. It's pretty readily available. And if you haven't seen Hard Rain, I don't know what you're doing with your life, because this is such a fun movie.
It is. And, just because we're not talking about them anymore doesn't mean you shouldn't be checking out Into the Dark. And we would love to hear what you think of it.
Yeah.
Again, doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And I also want to mention, if you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure you subscribe on your podcasting app. Leave us a rating. It really does make a big difference.
Yeah.
You can also comment over on Spotify. I read all of them. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, because we release one almost every Tuesday. Pretty close to every single Tuesday.
And also, in speaking with YouTube, I recently appeared on my friend Dice Roland show's Brain Mucus, and we talked about the horrors of mental health for Old, M. Night Shyamalan's Old, and that was a lot of fun, and that episode is currently available to listen to.
I was all for you, but that title's...
Brain Mucus?
Brain Mucus.
Yeah, the horrors of mental health.
I mean, I know that brains are surrounded by a mucus-like fluid, but when you had to put it that way...
I didn't make the show. I just appeared on it.
All I'm saying is, with a title like that, it's a bit of a nasty piece of podcasting.
That's fair.
All right, kids. Until next time, we will see you next Tuesday. In theory.
In theory, yes.